John Adams said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. So this is how the Fed steals your money. Congress enacted the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, which created the Fed, and the Fed is the U.S. central banking system. It's important to note that the Federal Reserve is not federal, and they keep no reserves. So it's a private corporation that's owned by a few banks, and the biggest are Citibank and J.P. Morgan. So the head of the Fed, he can be appointed indefinitely, and he answers to no one. It's independent of oversight in any government control. So do you understand the level of power that's given to the Fed? Not federal, has no reserves, and is owned by banks. Whenever the government needs money, they need to ask the Fed. The Fed issues a check, aka a bond, to the government. The government owes the money to the Fed, so the government gives U.S. Treasury bonds to the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve gives the U.S. government Federal Reserve notes. So the act of writing this special check creates money out of thin air. It's a debt spiral that's designed to go on indefinitely. It's a spiral that has caused the downfall of 100% of empires. The money supply is designed to expand under the Fed constantly, and that's why we think inflation is normal. So what does the Fed, the syndicate of banks, do with the treasury bonds that it gets from the U.S. government? Well, it sells it off to others, whether it's individuals or foreign governments. People make a lot of money holding the U.S. government's debt. So the Fed, it destroys the value of the U.S. dollar. In fact, the U.S. dollar lost 96% of its value since the 1900s. And all the decline it's happened since the Fed was created in 1913. So because the money supply is designed to expand, they keep printing more, it's guaranteed that the U.S. dollar will lose value. Inflation, therefore, is a hidden tax that robs you of your wealth. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's what creates a divide in wealth and eventually leads to the fall of an empire. So the personal income tax that you have to pay, that's to finance the government debt. It's not a coincidence that the personal income tax and the Fed came into existence at the same time, 1913. You see, on February 3rd of 1913, the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution was ratified. Later that year, the government imposed a personal income tax. What a coincidence. Without a personal income tax, it's hard to have a central bank because the whole money system is built on debt. In fact, if there was no debt, there wouldn't be any money at all. If nobody owes money, then money doesn't exist. This explains why debt will never be paid off, because paying off debt means you destroy the money supply. The Fed is a money-making machine, and they expand and contract the money supply at free will, which just so happens to be a private corporation owned by a syndicate of banks that created the tax on your income, and they create the hidden tax of inflation. Do you really think these banks are on your side to help you with inflation, or is it just a way to get their money back from you? You're getting played and you don't even know it.